I'm thrilled to welcome Cristiano Amon, who is President and CEO of Qualcomm. But before he joins me, I want to play a quick video. Welcome. I'm very excited to be joined by Cristiano today to have a conversation about innovation and specifically around the automotive industry, but we will cover much more than just that. So, Cristiano, you assumed the role of CEO last June, but you have been with Qualcomm for quite some time steering the strategy and direction of the organization. And you've been making quite big headlines lately with some bold statements about the direction of Qualcomm and the growth trajectory and strategy. So one of the quotes is from one of our publications. So in Barron's, you recently said that you expect and can foresee a world in which Qualcomm goes from about 100 billion to 700 billion in a few years from now. Can you talk a little bit about what you see and what you're investing in at Qualcomm to help propel that kind of growth?
Well, happy to talk about it. Good afternoon, everyone. Very happy to be here talking to you about this. What we see happening in technology right now, mobile technology is going everywhere. And we knew that the scale of mobile technology, we will be big. If you look at the smartphone today, it's mankind's largest development platform ever built. And the ability to connect everything to the cloud 100% of the time and have power efficient advanced processing everywhere, it will be the critical ingredient for this promise that we have in front of us of digital transformation of every industry. And when you think about the opportunity for Qualcomm and how we saw a 7x expansion of addressable market from today's 100 billion to 700 billion of addressable market, it's easy to understand when you look at the projections we have today for the cloud. The cloud is growing at about a 35% year over year. You could even argue that, it's unlimited growth. Where does it end? But the cloud needs all devices to be connected to the cloud and send data. We also know that about 64% of the processing actually happens at the edge. And that's going to be the role of Qualcomm. We're going to be the company that is going to be connecting all those devices at the edge, those billions of devices at the edge. They're going to have connectivity and processing to what we call the smart connect. It's the connected intelligent edge, and that's how we're going to grow to a much larger market that we have today.
That's amazing, and I think that the diversification and the industry growth is key there, and then. I know we're going to be talking about the automotive industry, but in addition, what other industries and spaces do you see rapid growth? I mean, you mentioned cloud technology and innovation there, which is going to propel all industries forward, but what do you have your eye on?
There's a lot, and that's why I think we're so excited about the future and the opportunities. Yeah, I know we're going to talk about the automotive in a little bit, but there's so many other industries that are starting and some that are being transformed, and I'm going to give you some examples. What we learned through the pandemic and that the role of productivity is changing, especially as we look about the ability for individuals to work from anywhere. That is fundamentally changing our understanding of what a personal computer is. We saw now a full convergence in mobile and computing. I keep repeating this because I do find fascinating. The #1 application and use case on a personal computer today is communications, it's telecommunications, it's those collaboration tools, whether it's Microsoft Teams and Zooms. And I think the transformation of this industry to what is the next generation personal computer for the era from work from anywhere in cloud computing, it's a big opportunity. That's a transformation of existing industry, which is actually growing substantially. Brand new industry, which is the metaverse. It's about connection of physical and digital spaces. We have been very bullish on this opportunity. We've been investing in fundamental R&D to be able to create devices that you can wear and connect the physical world with the digital world. We've been investing in R&D for 10 years, I think before the metaverse was popular. But we see a huge opportunity. And as I made the statement before, if I can make a prediction, this can be as big as smartphones, especially as we think about glasses that we all can wear and, as a companion to your smartphone, and eventually the 5G connected glass, it could be the replacement of your smartphone. That's a big opportunity. And then the list is endless. There's this very broad, what we call Industry 4.0. It's redefining manufacturing. We see the opportunity with smart cities. We see the opportunity with smart energy. And this transformation of the industry with IoT, I think we're just scratching the surface of the opportunity. So it's an exciting future, I think, for technology. And like I said, they're brand new industries that are just starting right now.
The metaverse is an interesting one that's going to impact the way that we consume content and engage with each other. So it's very exciting that you're really making a big move in that space as well. So Qualcomm is known for smartphones and connectivity, but you have pivoted into the automotive industry as well and have partnerships with all major auto manufacturers, including BMW, GM, Volvo, Toyota, not limited to those. So what kind of was the opportunity that you saw to make that move into the auto industry in such a big way and have that be such a key focus for your growth strategy?
Oh, look, I love to tell the story because, I'll tell a little bit how we started this. We're very proud of our automotive business and automotive position right now. It's one that started within Qualcomm, I think was record growth. In a very short period of time, Qualcomm became, a significant, technology supplier to the automotive industry. But I love to tell the story how this started. When we're looking into, opportunities beyond mobile, the obvious thing is the car is mobile. So car will benefit from connectivity, and what happens when you connect the car to the cloud. So the very first thought process is it's a no-brainer. It's a mobile device, and it should be connected. But then the second thing, and I think many of us can relate to, you see sometimes people driving and looking at their phone. Sometimes they even buy an adapter that they put their phone right there in the dashboard. Why is that? It's because you have more information that is relevant to you even when you're behind the wheel in your phone than you get from the car. That creates an opportunity for innovation. And from there, we created a concept of a Snapdragon Digital Cockpit. Can we completely redefine the electronic experience of the cockpit of the car on every screen, from the dashboard to the infotainment, the heads-up display, smart mirrors, all the way to rear seat entertainment. First, when you combine those two things, you can see that you have connectivity to the car, you have a completely new experience. It changes the the car industry dramatically. Connectivity provide the ability for you to distribute content in the car. You have data from the car, personalized experiences. You have the ability to have an advertising business, for example, for ride sharing and so forth. But it didn't stop there. And then, of course, it evolved to assisted driver and autonomy. And what we did, we took exactly the same approach that we took in mobile. Can we create a platform that is scalable from a premium car all the way to an entry-level car? Can we create a platform that is multi-generation? And that was the beginning of this idea, which is very unique to Qualcomm, of creating a digital chassis. You know, car companies, they're being very successful. They were able to create modular approaches for the drivetrain, for the unibody, the chassis of their cars, that they could sometimes reutilize them across different brands and segments. We took the same approach to technology. We created a digital chassis, and it was a perfect match with the car companies that see that the car is becoming a connected computer on wheels. And I think that's the essence of the Qualcomm success in the automotive industry. We create a digital chassis that allow our automotive partners to apply that across multi-generation, multi-tier, open, horizontal platform. They can develop and retain their innovation, and we're just helping them go into this fast-paced transition to a technology industry, which is the automotive industry.
Interesting. You mentioned kind of the experience for the driver. What does this mean from a kind of future of cities world look, and like how is this going to impact the way that we kind of coexist and transport ourselves?
This is my second, I think, a favorite topic of conversation when I talk about the automotive. And I'll describe this in a very simple way. I like to, and this is good to talk about this MWC because you have a lot of telecom operators in the audience who probably understand this. You look at the car in itself as an individual car, and you apply all this technology to the car that it not only changes your experience with the car, their assisted driving, etc. But once you connect every car in the road to the cloud, what you really have is a network. You have, at a higher level, a network of connected cars. And why stop there? Add all the bicycles and the motorcycles and the pedestrians with their phones, and all of a sudden, you create the opportunity for intelligent transportation. And I think that's what will be the next frontier of transformation. And it's so powerful that it could enable us to get to a point that we have zero accidents. And you can see this. If you look at technologies that is part of 5G, such as C-V2X, and it's been harmonized in the 5.9 gigahertz spectrum across all continents, you can connect car to car, car to bicycles, car to motorcycle, car to pedestrians, car to traffic lights, car to road signs. Road signs can be digital things placed everywhere you want them. And all of a sudden you have a new reality. And I can speak about that all day. I'm going to give you some examples. The traffic light can tell you to adjust your speed if you want to get green. It'll tell you how many seconds to green. It will tell you what's happening at the intersection. It will tell, because you can see the other cars, the traffic light can see the other cars. If there's an uncommon traffic at a speed that it could, be something that you should be worried about. If a pedestrian is running in parallel to you on the sidewalk, that's a safe environment. If it changes direction, that's not a safe environment. And the examples are countless. So I believe the connection of the car to the cloud, the connection of the car to other cars in everything that we see in the roads is going to enable us to go to the next frontier, digital technology transformation of an industry, which is intelligent transportation. Right. And I think that ties really well what we're also seeing in terms of smart cities as part of this broad, evolution of IoT.
Right. It's a highly competitive space. How are you positioning Qualcomm to stay ahead of the curve as far as innovation within the automotive space, and what's going to be the future of kind of transportation in cities?
Look, I'll give you a simple answer. That is, That is the reason I think joined this company first time as a young engineer. That's the reason I love this company. Yeah. Qualcomm, it's a company that it's really focused in fundamental R&D and innovation. And no matter what the industry is, whether it's the cellular industry for smartphone and mobility, whether it's the automotive industry, whether it's the Internet of Things industry, if innovation matters and the speed the innovation matters, there's always going to be room for Qualcomm.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. The chip industry and in general supply chain has been a very important topic that has been discussed quite a bit. And so I'm curious how Qualcomm is managing to provide kind of an easier sourcing of those chips and integration into the products that we all want and need, and there's such high demand for.
Yeah, no, this is a great topic of conversation. I think we've been dealing with this, I think, for probably more than a year right now. Maybe I'll unpack this whole topic of semiconductor supply chain, and I'm going to go into phases. I think the first thing we all learned, and we're very happy about that semiconductors are important. Important to sell cars, important to sell appliances, it's important to sell computers and phones and many other things that people didn't realize had semiconductors in them. And it's a testimony about how important and essential semiconductors have become for the future of economies in every country and across every industry. The supply chain crisis brought a new sense of awareness and a focus, which we applaud, of building a resilient, geographically diversified supply chain. Mm-hmm. The reality is that while the pandemic had aggravated the supply chain issue, I think the reality is, if this was the level of consumption of semiconductors, this is the level right now, and we're not even started. So we need to invest in much larger capacity to manufacture semiconductors because digital transformation is real. Every single industry is being impacted for, and that will consumption of semiconductors will continue to increase. Specifically to your question, we're doing better than some of our peers, but we still have more demand than supply. Mm-hmm. We see that becoming better as we get to the second half of this fiscal year, but demand can continue to rise. And what we've done, we took action early. We made a lot of investments in capacity, joint planning, joint investments with some of our foundry partners. We pretty much work with every foundry. We're the largest fabless semiconductor company. We don't have any manufacturing. We partner with every foundry in the world, from TSMC to Samsung. We've been public that we're going to partner with Intel. We're partnering with global foundries. So we put capacity planning in place. The other thing that we did, we rely on Qualcomm large-scale engineering capability to design our products to every possible capacity we'll find out there. So even advanced 5-nanometer technology, we dual design those products. Mm-hmm. We're navigating to the crisis, and I'll probably end by saying it's a very good thing, the United States CHIPS Act, the EU CHIPS Act. We've been very encouraged as an industry that now the United States and Europe are working together, because I think together it's a greater chance of succeeding in meeting the goal of having at least 50% of semiconductor manufacturing within those two geographies. And we need more capacity. We need to build a resilient supply chain, and it's going to be important for the future.
Okay, amazing, because I need a new car, and I can't wait for that supply to get up so we can actually have them at market value and market rates. Within the auto industry, sustainable business practices has been a key area of focus, and there have been some lofty kind of goals put out there by the EPA, who is really looking to set very strict standards as far as automotive goes. We also both live in California, and there's an executive order to eliminate the new combustion engines by 2035. These are very lofty goals that are also regional. Can you talk a little bit about how Qualcomm is helping with those sustainable business practices and efforts as it relates to auto and then broader?
Yes, maybe I'll start with auto. You know, the automotive industry is really, you know, creating, transforming the car to make an advanced computer. And technology has an important role. I will start by basically saying, in the conversation we just had, intelligent transportation can drive a reduction of fuel consumption in the order of 20%. That's very significant. So that's why I think we're so passionate about going to this next frontier in technology such as C-V2X and driving towards intelligent transportation. Managing all the cars on the road as a network of cars, that it's in the order of 20%. The other thing is Qualcomm has been a company, one of our DNA is low power. It comes from our heritage of smartphones. Your battery has to last for the whole day. It's a small form factor. Great example that our autonomy platforms, instead of putting a server in the trunk of a car, it's a small platform. Great example is General Motors Ultra Cruise, passive cooling. And it's about bringing the computational needs to the automotive industry with reduced level of power consumptions. And then, of course, as you think about the move towards electrification, you have a lot of opportunity, especially for energy management. So technology can do a lot in helping the car companies achieve their goals. And I think it doesn't stop there. Maybe I'll go beyond the automotive industry. 5G has a major role to play. Just when you look about 2025, when you have, you know, large deployments of 5G everywhere, what the impact of 5G is in terms of sustainability is the equivalent of taking 81 million cars out of the US roads for a year.
Wow.
And this industry, the wireless industry, sometimes does not get the deserved credit for the impact in sustainability. A great example of that is our phones. Smartphone had replaced every other consumer electronic product out there, from cameras to portable music players, video players, gaming consoles, and so forth. And I think we'll continue to do that. So technology will play an important role, and 5G especially will be essential, I think, for sustainability goals of many countries.
Wonderful. And Qualcomm specifically has also set your own net zero global standards by 2040, I believe. Can you talk a little bit more about what you're doing within Qualcomm to achieve that goal?
Yes, we're one of the first company to do that among all of our peers. We're engaging in future energy contracts with all of our suppliers. We're focused on decarbonizing all of our operations. And we feel very confident that we can achieve that by 2040.
That's great. And so just to kind of take a look back, you started your career in 1995 at Qualcomm as an engineer. And there are many CEOs today who have engineering backgrounds, Satya Nadella, Tim Cook, and really provides that kind of broader lens of the business. Can you talk a little bit about how having an engineering background and your experience at Qualcomm has prepared you for the role you have today as CEO?
Yes, well, maybe it's, I go back to what I said. I think when I was, you know, I've been fortunate enough that, you know, I'm an electrical engineer, fortunate enough to work in the wireless industry since the beginning of my career. And when I met Qualcomm for the first time, I was incredibly impressed and said, wow, I got to work at this company because this company is really investing in technologies that can make a difference and that actually can change the society. And I feel there is a benefit, I think, of if you're a passion engineer like I am, and especially for a company where the majority, it's composed by, you know, engineers. We're the companies that have one of the largest, you know, investments in R&D. I think it's helpful to continue to drive innovation forward. I don't want to draw a comparison. I think they're better CEOs than I am that does not have an engineering background, but it feels good to be an engineer at Qualcomm and to be able to share, I think, the same views and passion about technology that many of our engineers have.
It's amazing. And then as we have all pivoted during the pandemic into kind of what the new future of work looks like, how does that look within Qualcomm as far as kind of the engineering heart and soul that you have for the organization? And what is your kind of method moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we're all learning. I don't think there's a well-defined recipe. We're extremely grateful, I think, for our culture. You know, since the beginning of the pandemic, we had, was easy and fast to send, I think, the majority of our employees, into a working from home environment. And we have kept the innovation engine going. We have kept executing. It's been one of the, most formidable executions we have at a company. And now, as we hopefully get, out of this pandemic, we're bringing people back. I think people are excited to be back, especially for a company that is there's a lot of brainstorming, collaboration. I think to get people working together, it's good. The collective minds, I think, drive probably better and faster innovation. But to be honest, I think this is we're learning, like everybody else, what this new word is of the future of productivity when you have a hybrid work environment. But one thing we like about that's going to drive PCs to be 5G connected, and that's a great opportunity for Qualcomm.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. As we look into the future and increasingly impacted by digital technologies, Qualcomm plays such an important role at that connectivity, the IoT universe that we are all starting to live in and are going to continue to the trajectory is huge. So thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we could go.